What if I told you the biggest threat to your business is not a hacker in the dark room, not a criminal syndicate overseas, not even most sophisticated malware. It is trust, misplaced trust. Today, I'm sitting down with a man who has spent nearly 3 decades dismantling that illusion. For 26 years inside the New South Wales Police Force, he led the Sydney City Fraud Unit for almost 20 of them. He took down some of Australia's most significant fraud operations. He extradited fugitives from 4 continents. He led investigations into criminals who believed they were untouchable. And today he operates inside corporate world, helping organizations prevent loss, recover assets, and most importantly, protect reputations. And today, this is not a conversation about fear. This is a conversation about prevention, about discipline, about understanding how fraudsters think, so we all can stop them. My guest today is Roland Winter, former senior fraud investigator, now director at Cordamenta, cybersecurity specialist, and something I truly, deeply respect. Not once, but twice, inducted into Australia Martial Arts Hall of Fame. Because fighting fraud and mastering yourself require the same thing: discipline. Hello, all of you risk takers and truth seekers, and welcome to Podcast Live, The Battlefield. Today we speak with a man who chased fraudsters across continents, no country, continents, led Australia's most significant financial investigation, and now help corporations survive internal deception. But what fascinated me most is the way how you operate. That's a discipline. Roland, thank you for coming today in my humble studio. Thank you for taking time to be with me today. So you ready for the interview?
I'm very ready, Mario. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a real pleasure.
No, thank you. So look, before we start talking about discipline, which I'm very, very, very curious, how do you, even today, applying the discipline day after day, why not tired of this one? I want to start with a very simple question everybody will ask you. Why did you become the police officer? What was the desire in you, and when did you become the police officer?
I joined the police in 1996, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I had some ideas. I actually studied science at university, and I wanted to study forensic science. That interested me. However, after a short time, I realised that you had to be a doctor to be a pathologist. So I'd only completed a science degree and not a Bachelor of Medicine. So then I thought, I like a hierarchy, a structure, and the military was another option, but the police enabling I could help people. Yes. And I know that's quite a cliche, but I felt I could help people with my personality and some of my background with my training, etc., in martial arts. So I joined the police, and I liked having a structure. I liked reporting to people, and that kind of got me going. And then I became a detective after a short time in uniform, and then I fell into fraud.
Look, before we dive deep into the being police officer, actually not just a police officer, I'm not sure that's a proper way to say it, but detective, and you led fraud unit. Feel free to correct me in every step if I don't say properly, because I say hierarchy in Australia for me it's not sits with my old one in Croatia.
Yes.
But it's like, you say you love the structure, you love the discipline. How important it is for anybody who takes seriously success in life, health, business, family. It's a structure, it's a discipline to have on a daily basis.
For me and my personality, it's all about structure, discipline, and being organised ahead of time. So not only on the day, but the following days and the weeks. And I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do. I've already run the future days in my mind. So I know what's going to happen. Occasionally there will be things that pop up as a surprise, but as we all experience in life. But because I think that way, it's not a surprise to me when it does happen. And I think to tackle a lot of things, a lot of tasks in life, and people want to do so much these days with work and activities and just general playtime and downtime, things need to be broken up into small chunks to be manageable. It's like having a very busy desk and you've got paperwork all over your desk. You need to tackle one thing at a time, and that's my approach to everything.
No, thank you for that one, because if I'll take advice from somebody how to run my day, not my life, my day, will be you, because we're going to come to that point where I want to talk about martial arts. With you, it's like like a Forrest Gump, like a box of chocolates. Just I can't wait to unwrap everything with you guys. So today with me, it's Roland. It's like 26 years in New South Wales Police Force. Chasing some of the most vigilant criminals. They think they're untouchables, but Roland got them. But we talk today right now about discipline and structure of the day. Now, what's the biggest misconception about police in public you see, even today, even you're not in the force? What's the biggest misconception about us, public, about police?
About the police in particular?
Yeah,
generally speaking. I think most of the public would are correct to say that the police are there to help them in anything, in everything and anything.
Yes.
However, that's not really the case. Police have a certain function, and they deal with one part of society. They can't fix everything. So to expect police to know everything, they do make mistakes like everybody else, but they learn from those mistakes. And I think good organisations do learn from their errors, and that's whether it's a policing or it's a corporate a bank or a financial institution of some kind. If something's happened to them or which doesn't look good as a reputation, then they should look at correcting it. And I think most people, especially in Australia, they appreciate honesty from people when they might say, look, we haven't, or we could have done this better. However, we will learn from this. And I think Australians appreciate that honesty up front.
In our prior conversation before this podcast, I mentioned to you, like I took my son overseas in Croatia, and he spoke with some of my colleagues who are still in the service in military intelligence, in police and all these things. And my son says to me, this police doesn't laugh. They don't move. I said, Matteo, because that's how they are. They just want to break your neck. They don't talk to you. Like he said, in police, in Australia, you can say, hello, mate, which is unusual.
They're probably more approachable, I think, than some overseas examples.
Oh, absolutely.
And different continents. It's just a cultural thing, an expectation with authority, obeying authority. If we go back in Australian history, then obeying authority is not one of our stronger suits probably, although now we're very regulated in certain industries. But being a larrikin or a bit of a lad or something like that is looked upon with a bit of fondness in Australian culture. So, you can compare police forces. They're very different in some areas.
No, absolutely it is. Like, I say from my perspective as well, but we're going to come to that point where you are chasing the criminals across the continents. But now, other night I was watching like a Time, the movie called Other Guys. Did you watch the one with the Mark Wahlberg and the Will Ferrell?
No, but I don't mind Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, like it's a comedy, right? The police, so like as a two distinctive departments, crime and the financial. And there was separation. The crime is being glorified, you know what I mean? Like, all the news, everything else. But you choose the fraud. Let's go talk about this one. Why is capital crime more glorified across the media? And the people who are actually running after criminals who takes the most valuable items after their life, that is the money. Like last night I was watching on a current affair, lady, she's been defrauded by $871,000 by her bookie bookkeeper.
Yes.
And I'm like, how is that even possible? You know, I mean, how come somebody can take that money? Why did you choose fraud, not a capital crime?
Look, that's a great question. And the short answer is that fraud or financial crime is really boring to most people. And that's the fact in terms of investigating it, following up. It's not really sexy like drugs and guns and all those kind of things and organised crime. Although fraud, of course, by its very nature, that's where the money comes from, and it is a foundation for most other crimes and setting people up. So for life, in terms of having a good life, a lifestyle. But it's just not interesting for most law enforcement. And just look at TV shows. You don't see fraud portrayed under CSI or anything similar to that. You never see that. It's always the hard-hitting, the homicides, the robberies, the drug syndicates, not fraud. I went into it because I did a science degree. I wanted to be a pathologist. I wanted to be meticulous with study, and I'm very fact-based. With emotion as well, understanding that from an outside perspective. And fraud is generally thought of as the thinking man's crime. So that's why I went to do that. And it followed steps. To do a fraud investigation needs to be very methodical. And it's a process, and it's a step-by-step. You can't complete 2 until you've done 1. And it's very similar to martial arts when you're doing a kata or something similar, a pre-arranged set of moves. You have to have the first one down before you can move on to the second. Now, that's very obvious to say, but quite often people being impatient, they want to skip things, and they don't always follow the steps.
As a professional, as someone who is an expert, for all us normal people, normal public, what is the fraud by your definition? What is, because everybody says like, this is the fraud, this is the fraud. Everybody like to use that word fraud in different setups, different settings. But you as a professional, somebody who worked for 26 years, for our public, what is the fraud?
The word fraud is thrown around a lot, like you say, and there are so many different levels of fraud. It can be criminal at its highest, or it can be civil at a lower level. And a criminal fraud has to be, or it have a deception to it, a deceptive element by the person who's maybe uttering words or showing you pictures of something which aren't real. So all those scam emails we get, text messages, the people sending those, they know they're not true, but they're after a financial reward. So because they know they're not true, that's deception. And they're doing it with purpose and intent. So that essentially is a criminal fraud, whereas a civil fraud is like an outstanding debt and someone doesn't pay you back. And I'll give you a quick example. I know we don't use cheques much now, but if I owe you money, say $1,000, and I give you a cheque for $1,000 to cover my debt, you think, fantastic, it's all over. I've been repaid. However, you go back to the bank and it bounces. Now, people will say fraud straight away, and it's really, that's a civil fraud because I haven't gained anything out of it. I still owe you $1,000. All I did was delay payment time. There were previous and older offences for that kind of thing, but generally that's not a policing function to chase debts, which are a civil fraud. So yes, the word fraud is used, but it's very wide.
Because I think we as a public, particularly myself, I'm not familiar with the law in Australia. And I mean, I never grew up here, but I try to learn quickly as best possible I can. But I know that people are expecting police gonna chase the debts, as you say, like what I mean. And they go to court, and magistrate says like it's not job of police. You should read a contract or make the contract with somebody.
That's correct.
The money.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me ask you about something. I've said this is some of the capital cases you've done. ING case, $45 million.
Yes.
What was that? Can we talk about this one?
Absolutely, yes. It's all finished now in public record. And
$45 million. That's not $1,000 check I owe you.
No, it's not $1,000.
Can you guide us how this happened and maybe steps you can share with us?
Yeah, sure.
How the investigation
Yeah.
run? Because $45 million, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and it's beyond belief. I mean, to
Yes.
our general understanding, like $1,000. It's not that. Look, it occurred over a long period of time. It was a trusted and long-term employee. They'd been there 15, 20 years, so they knew the systems of the company inside and out.
Yes.
And because they'd been there so long, they rose up the ranks, and therefore they saw business operations. They were probably promoted beyond their ability, but that's another story.
Yes.
But they still had access to controls, payment systems. They could move money. And because it was a very, very large international company, the bank accounts at that person's disposal they had millions and millions, tens of millions in them at any one time.
Yes.
So nobody really missed $200,000 going missing here, or $100,000 or $500,000. Correct checking wasn't put in place. Nobody really checked because they believed and trusted the person in such a senior role. So trust is a big thing. And I know we might speak about how people get away with frauds, but trust is a big factor. And people are shocked and disappointed when an employee, especially a star employee, maybe deceives a company and steals money from them.
Star employee, I heard this quite often. Like, I'll just draw the parallel when I was working in military intelligence. Usually that people who you believe they are the top of the top stars, you know what I mean, they'll never do something bad. But the money it's a devil, and betrayal, it's big. But what was first question when you find out, or somebody, you've been given case, right? So obviously somebody says on top of you, like you say, okay, here we are, that's a case. When you saw $45 million, you say like, what?
Look, my initial thoughts, and I think anyone would think this, and a lot of people in law enforcement do it, that's impressive. That's an impressive amount of money. Of course, it's shocking and terrible, but wow, how did that person manage to do that?
How long was this employee taking money from?
5 years.
5 years?
5 years they were doing that. The first 4 years, they were doing it smaller amounts. And when I say smaller amounts, they were large amounts to the common person.
Yeah.
But in the last year, she was taking $700,000 a week, $900,000 a week, those kind of figures for her last almost year of doing that. So nobody picked it up. It was only the last year that it was picked up. So had she kept doing it, the smaller amounts, the $10,000, the $30,000, who knows if the detection would have occurred. Probably eventually, but it was those larger amounts which triggered alarm bells.
Okay, my curiosity now, when you investigate these people, and then you have a interrogation time or questioning time, whatever in Australia you call this. Interview time, sorry.
Yes,
it's interview time?
It's interviewing. Generally speaking, interviewing.
Interview time.
We don't interrogate.
Okay,
in this
look,
and I know most of the public would use the word interrogate. And look, in a way, it is like that, but the way the words are delivered and it's formulated and packaged up, the actual process of interviewing is a little bit different.
Interviewing, when you interview that person, that lady, did you feel that any moment in time that she felt that she's afraid she's going to be caught? Did she maybe told, if you can share, those people, they say like, I was afraid, but was stronger than me. How, can you just explain to me? I'm very curious now, and everybody else, when somebody was sitting opposite you, and of course you will ask questions, did that person, that fraudster, ever on any moment of time felt afraid it's going to be caught, but still continue doing what they're doing?
So this particular case occurred at a weekend, and because I was working Monday to Friday at that time, corporate hours in a fraud team, of course, so that was one of the attractions to it, by the way. So some of my colleagues were working, unfortunately, at the weekend, and so they picked her up straight away from the airport because she was going somewhere. Okay. And so they brought her back, and look, the interviewing, she was very polite, and you would not think a person with manners like that could do that. But I can say, Mario, people who take that much money, they have a personality which they think they can never be caught. So it's that narcissism, and rather than doing horrible things to people like serial killers may do, they steal lots of money. But they have the same thought processes, lack of empathy for people, and they may have reasons for doing what they do. So they rationalise it. You know, the person owed me money, I work long hours here, I should have been promoted. They do that, but she was very polite and didn't care too much. She underestimated the money that she'd taken, grossly underestimated. And it's very hard to remember all the thefts you do if you're doing it over 5 years. You won't remember every day or every week. So usually they're underestimated. But she was quite surprised and was wondering what all the fuss was about.
Now when you see this from this perspective, corporate perspective, what do you think, what is the biggest tool any corporation they have on their disposal to prevent possible frauds in future? Because I heard expression in Australia, which is very powerful, who is watching the watchers, right?
Yes.
And I said to myself, what does it even mean? That the person I was dealing with, I was working in Croatian Embassy, he was from AFP, he says to me, this and this. It's like, that's so good. But you as a professional who works now to protect corporations, what is the biggest advantage or tools or mechanisms any corporation has on their disposal to prevent something like this happening in the workplace?
Well, it seems simple enough, but I think human involvement still needs to be a large part of any control process. So not relying on the tools, not getting distracted by the AI and all the technology. And that is fantastic stuff we have at our disposal. And companies have so many choices out there. But you still need people, and you just said a minute ago, who watches the watchers. You still need people to oversight and make sure things are running correctly, because these are things, machines, software and tools, they're not completely
immune.
They can't be. So you still need people, and in fact I'm attending a conference next month in Singapore for the ACFE Singapore conference to talk about the human AI nexus and this exact topic on what companies should be still maintaining in their business rather than just relying on technology alone. That's probably not a good or
so guys,
most efficient
if you're listening,
step.
I'm going to put Roland details in the description section so you can reach him on a LinkedIn and to the website. So you can talk to him if you need more advice and tips how to protect your intellectual property, against the fraud and many other things. Now, I'd like to move on another case, Peter Fraudster. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So I need to Google it because I wasn't familiar, right? But the question is that what separates a serial conman from opportunistic offender like him?
I think, look, I haven't got a psychology degree, but generally, looking at martial arts and all my experience I've had before, people fit into a curve, and most people do the right thing. There'll be some people who do the wrong thing all the time, some who will do the right thing all the time. And that might be standing at a red traffic light at 11 o'clock at night when there's no cars there, that kind of thing. So the behaviour demonstrates that they will be by the book completely. But then you've got 60% of people in the middle there who, if there's an opportunity, if there's hope, if they're not going to get caught somehow, then they may take that opportunity to get something for nothing or for less input on their side if it's easy. So in terms of Peter Fraudster, look, he is a career criminal, and that's widely publicised and all over the world as well.
Yes.
And something he was doing fairly young. When he was late teens, he started getting involved in different things and schemes and scams. Because, look, it was easy money, quick money and big money as well. And to younger people, the hope of having a large amount of money quicker before your friends, that's quite appealing. So if you're of that personality type, and it's all personality and attitude really, which drives us to something, activities and whatever we do, people just stay in that bucket and they see it, and that's all they know. After a while, after a decade or two, that's all they know. So
may I ask you, this question is not related to the police or anything we're talking right now. It talks about, let's just say, about social media influencers who portray themselves very rich, very successful. You know what I mean? I have the money. Look at my golden Rolex, I have my Porsche and anything else. And the fact is, I know most of them, they have not even money for their coffee. But on somehow, I don't know, on images you can have everything original, but I know it's original. Do you believe that portraying yourself in public that as a wealthy, successful person will attract actually even worse type of con man who's going to go after you, kidnapping, ransom, blackmailing, extortions? What is your take on that one?
Those kind of images you're talking about, they often are part of a fraud or a scam or a deception of somehow because, and I had another one who was the photoshopping guy from Australia, he's Dimitri DeAngelis, and he stole close to $9 million by using photographs of famous people. And he showed those people to investors and they put money in because they thought he was a well-connected man.
Okay.
But it was all fake and photoshopped mostly. So usually those kind of props will attach themselves, and I call them props because
they are props.
They're props essentially. And it might be having boats and cars or holiday homes, but people don't know they're being rented or leased, so they will then, of course, use them to deceive people to think they're rich and famous. It's and they can be used with other crime types as well, but typically they will be associated with fraudsters.
So, you said something in our conversation, Mario, 9 to 5, that was a perk of the job, but you chased criminals across continents. Okay, can you just explain to all, people see on a CSI and the movies like it's a beautiful first class, the guns, the glasses, whatever it is. What was look for you chasing somebody overseas?
Well, it was always a challenge because jurisdiction was always an issue. Cost was an issue. Resourcing was an issue as well. Getting evidence from overseas was always problematic as well. And so building a brief of evidence on someone who had fled the jurisdiction, and I'll say New South Wales in this case, you put so much work and effort into it, and it's almost like you don't want to stop until you have them because you want to see your work paid off, essentially. And people like that who normally flee, they've typically stolen lots of money, and I'm talking millions of dollars, because they can afford to travel and live elsewhere, pay money to stay and remain anonymous, for instance. And so for me, the brief was never going away, and certain people, victims, needed justice as well, because people lots of money through investment scams particularly, and these people just thought they could get away with it, and then they ran away thinking nobody would ever touch them. But law enforcement, to their credit, they have a worldwide web of networking connections and people they can call upon to assist in different jurisdictions. So if the driver's there, if the interest, the resources, and that the money and finances are there in terms of travelling, because all that costs money to the taxpayer. So it needs to be case by case and to see what's worth the travelling. If victimisation is extensive, many people have been hurt, then the community would expect someone to be brought back. So I enjoy doing that.
Yeah, you said several times trust is one of the biggest issues we have. And I remember when I was reading about Benny Madoff, that guy who is like, I couldn't believe it, how many billions of dollars he defrauded.
Incredible amount.
And then this guy, Sam Altman, the crypto guy as well, 40 billion. And I'm reading, I said to myself, how you can live with this, you wiped all that money to the ordinary people, pensions and the savings and everything else. Was there any time in your career when you felt helpless and that you can't solve the case? And how did you deal with that?
Yes, quite often I felt that way at the time when I was working in New South Wales Police, mostly because you need evidence. You can have allegations that someone has said something, but then you need to prove that to a standard. Burden of proof is beyond reasonable doubt for the criminal standard. So you needed to have the evidence, and typically with cyber crimes, when victims and offenders don't meet face to face, it's very hard to prove that was the person who actually said those words or typed on a keyboard, because with cybercrime, people are all over the world and sending messages out, do this, do that, invest here, you'll make lots of money back. But you need to prove that. So you can assume things, of course, that leads to investigations, but you still need to prove it at a certain standard. So sometimes you couldn't do that, unfortunately, or if the person was overseas in a country with no extradition proceedings or treaties with Australia, you couldn't get them. And you just had to check every now and then to see where they were, to see if they'd moved to a different area, to see possibly whether there was opportunity there to track them down and go and get them, so to speak. So yes, there were times when it was a little bit disappointing that nothing could be done to help people, because that's why most police join in the beginning, is to help people.
When the first time I spoke to you, what struck me with you, it's how genuine person you are, right? And you told me, after all, Mario, I just want to help everybody to get the justice and maybe recover the money and everything else. That's guys who Roland it is. And it's 26 years leading the team of the, what's it called, the fraud team?
Fraud team, fraud unit, Sydney City fraud team.
Sydney City fraud unit. 26 years later, what happened to you that you said, like, okay, gun and badge on the side, corporate world?
Well, I've been doing that for a long time, and my old team, where everyone was moving on, and that happens. Nothing lasts forever. All good things come to an end.
Yes.
And I'd had a great time, and I think the more we understand that all good things come to an end at one point, it helps us in our life with everything, relationships, work. So that kind of came to that point. And then I found Mentha. They're a great firm within Australia in the professional services industry, and they do a very similar work to what I do what I did in the police. I'm in the forensic team there now, and so I do a similar work, and I'm fortunate to be able to do a similar work. But I haven't got. Obviously, there's very stringent guidelines with investigations, but I suppose it's some of the red tape which gets associated with government work. It's a little bit different, especially if you're just like policing was all about criminal briefs, whereas now I'm doing an array. I'm going from the civil to the criminal and all in between. So it's been a great transition, and luckily I had dealt with corporates in my fraud days as well, because I would deal with big firms, banks, their investigation teams, insurance companies. So I already was familiar and comfortable speaking their language. And let me tell you, Mario, corporate language is quite interesting and fun.
Is it?
No, it's not really.
You got me. I
was very, because I'm very conscious of words and language, so it's always been interesting to me, and the roots of words and how they formulate and where they came from. And hearing corporate language, and I know it's the way people speak, and to understand in an environment you have language, but some of it sometimes doesn't make sense to me.
Make sense,
But I'm getting there. I'm getting better with it, and I'm accepting it more as I kind of have to. But it's good fun. It's good fun. It is overall.
Just you reminded me of my days when I was transitioning from military to the diplomatic intelligence, and my girlfriend then, I said, like, I have a nightmare. It's like, where's my badge? Where's my gun? And she says to me, you don't work in anymore. That's like, oh my God, it's totally different now. I need to use more brain, and
different language, different thought, different way of thinking as well,
which is very difficult. But it's like, I love what you said at the beginning. You love to be organized, disciplined, and you have the processes for yourself. Now, in corporate world, you are where you're working right now. You are the director at Mentha.
Yes.
So you added on your layer of your expertise the cyber security, right?
Yes.
Cybercrime, I said this one. How do you see the crime evolve? For 26 years, you were in police force, if I may say that way. Now, you're working in a corporate world. Do you see that the crime actually evolve, or just the tools evolve? The people desires stay same for the money, the benefits, whatever it is, right?
Yes. It's the tools that have got better.
Okay.
Human nature is human nature, whether it was 50 years ago or 10 years ago, 100 years ago. We all want the same things in life. We all want companionship. We all want to live well. We all want money to a degree. And yes, money is not the be and end all of everything, but it does help, especially in the current climate. So those factors on humans, that's what they're exploited, those points, by the fraudsters.
Yes.
And now with AI and the ability to deliver deceptive messages to people, can be done quicker, more authentically, and it's very hard to pick which is real and which is not real.
You are very close, because lately, I don't know how... No, sorry. I rephrased my statement. I don't know who gives my number, because I get these phone calls like, "Hi, my name is John. I'm AI machine. I want to do this for you. Like we have and I'm like, who are you? Like again, like I think it was a joke, right? But I get more these AI machines, bots, that try to sell me the business, and I say like, "Where's my phone? Who give my mobile number, right?" And then suddenly I getting all these emails. I mean, I know I'm not a slim guy, but you're fat, Mario. We can help you lose the weight. I say, how they know? Like, so I think that AI actually screens the people and gives them some sort of profile.
Yes, that's right.
To fraudsters.
Yes.
Now, I mean, so I want to ask you, what's the 3 major red flags corporations missing before the fraud explode the workplace?
Yes.
If I'm asking.
Yeah, no, certainly there are several red flags, but the key ones that I saw over and over again were almost made the employee, and I'll talk about employee frauds because they're the ones that we mostly, you know, because you know who they are. So then it's just building evidence on that person.
Employee of the month,
employee of the month. You probably got to look at those people more. Look, normally one red flag is that they don't want to delegate, or they don't want to hand over certain approval processes to someone else because they might be in a role, no, I can do everything, it's okay, but thank you for offering to help me, but I'll do everything. So they keep everything close to them. And then part of that process might be bullying or harassing someone who keeps coming back and saying, are you sure? Are you sure you don't want help? I think we should separate those duties. I should do this, you do that, just so we can double check each other's work, etc. And that's where the standover tactics might come in. So that's a bit of a red flag if someone's getting a little bit upset and defensive about someone who keeps approaching them. And it might be the board, it might be senior people within the executive team, it could be anyone, but so they like to hang on to that approvals and they like to approve everything themselves. Another one is they don't like to take much leave, or they work extended hours, they come in early, they finish late. I did see that a lot. So great employee, they come in early, they finish late, wow, and they don't take much leave. Although annual leave can be a hindrance, a liability for the business. But putting that aside, they would not take much leave. And so you don't look at those people.
Keep a control over the
because
people.
They need to be there longer than anyone else to see what's going in and going out and control things and the systems, and they need to be there. And one example is that ING fraudster. She was unlucky. She was just away from her desk at the time. And an external, a jeweller called the business and asked whether they were purchasing jewellery, and it's a financial services industry and company, so they don't buy jewels. So that was a red flag. That got her unstuck. But they work long hours, don't take much leave. So you don't look at them. They don't come under notice. Later on they do. When it's
like you're smiling because you can see, I know that you're withholding some information, so you always say, but it's usually people we least expecting they will do it.
Yes, you have to watch the quiet ones, Mario.
Yeah, the quiet ones.
The quiet ones. They don't cause trouble. They don't put their head up. It's a world of you've got the people that don't like to share. You've got people like outgoing personalities, depending on the personality type and the trait. But quiet ones, good workers, keep their heads down, work long hours. They need to be checked as well, just as much as anyone else does. And you can't discriminate on anyone in particular. And all the checks should be equally across a company. The control should be there. So there were 2 big red flags, mostly.
Would you agree with me that fraudsters actually being educated by the public? I'll give you an example. Like I saw something on LinkedIn and it was a very interesting article. So I wasn't sure was this article like a honeypot. The guy tried to collect information, what we think, what we know. But the documents start flying from him, like with the logo of the company, all the prevention systems, everything else. I think myself, if I'm the fraudster, I just need to know these things. You know what I mean, so like, what's the show? Do you think that fraudster's biggest tool is actually imagination?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I have to say, there's people I've come across who have done bad things like that. I often wonder, wow, these people are quite smart. And if only they'd applied themselves in a more honest way, they could have done anything. Because some of the schemes and scams, not that they change a lot, the scams, I mean, because they use the same vulnerabilities of people, you know, they're lonely, romance scams and things. But the way they do it, and make it a bit more complex sometimes to stop any investigations. And that's another layer in a scam, is making it a bit more complicated, or making it appear to be more complicated than it is, because that puts off law enforcement as well, because it gets harder to do things. And operating in different jurisdictions makes things harder as well. So if you've got a victim in one state, you've got the baddie in the other, you've got bank accounts in another. I mean, it can be all over the place, and then who's going to do it?
Who's going to do it? Yes.
Whose job is it?
That's so true.
Nobody wants to do it in the start and to begin with, so you need to find someone using processes and protocols as to who would do it.
Do you prefer that corporations rely less on recovery, lost money, and more on prevention?
By and large, yes. In my experience, not much is generally recovered because it costs money
to recover money.
So you're throwing good money after bad money. That ING example again, they recovered about half of that through the sale of assets that that confiscated assets and whatnot. So prevention and education, nothing beats that, really, in my opinion. And I love instructing and teaching, and I think that's valuable because that knowledge stays with people forever. But it has to be regular because employees move on and then new people come in. So they have to understand how a certain business works and the rules of that business and codes of conduct and policies and procedures. So it's an ongoing, education is ongoing. It's like with my martial arts teaching, I enjoy teaching higher grades, but you get a new person who's never done anything before, then you have to go back to the basics again. And fundamentals, which are everything. And across the board fundamentals are probably the most important thing of all in any walk of life. And fundamentals are usually boring, Mario, too.
I believe so, yeah.
They're boring. But most people don't want to do the fundamentals. They want to do the fancy stuff and the sexy stuff. Yeah. But really, it's the fundamentals are your foundation and your slab.
When I'm listening to the podcast, some podcasts is the most listening podcast globally, topic is crime. Nobody doesn't know this. The crime, it's a number one topic. Number two, it's a health, actually fat loss and those things.
Diets, isn't it? That's
diets. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But the crime, I said to my son, he's now finishing the medicine, and he says to me, Dad, I can't listen to your podcast anymore when I'm recording. I said, why? He said, all these spies, who cares, I said, Mateo, you don't understand, you know what I mean? This is fundamentals, how this is being done, and and he can't understand, and then he has a problem, and then he comes to me, says to me, can you help me? It's like, what do you mean I help you? I just read the books, they don't read the books anymore. So my question is, do the criminals are born criminals or they become the criminals? And what's the major reason you're seeing somebody becomes a criminal, career criminal?
Usually it's their upbringing for career criminals, and they don't know anything else. And it can be sad and disappointing because they had a very hard life perhaps themselves. So that's all they knew, and they were never taught or loved or anything like that. So they were never given that nurture which maybe would have sent them in a different direction. And I guess a smaller percentage again are they're just born that way. And when we all know and can cite examples of that, but extreme examples of that. But then most people fall into it through a lifestyle. You have a taste of something and it tastes nice and easy, and if you can get away with it, if there's any hope, and humans, any hope at all, good or bad, there's something, they will latch on to that, in my experience, and continue with the process and stay and remain and just rip people off, essentially, if they can. Some people will justify it by saying, I only rip off the government or
So just justification
or a bank,
of the.
it's a bank, and they make billions
Yeah.
of dollars, and so they're not really a victim. But that's just a justification and rationalising what they do. They're still criminals.
Before I move into the now in a discipline and the martial arts, I have one more question. Very, very interesting question from your perspective. Does a prison rehabilitate person, or the person learns the craft and becomes better in that craft and go on a crime spree after the prison sentence? Let's go say in fraud.
Yeah. Most people, from what I've seen, and the people that were arrested and charged and did time, so to speak, custodial sentences in jail, look, most of them come out and they get on with their lives and they realise their errors they made. Because they're corporate criminals. Only very few went back to what they did, and it was more when they were actually arrested. They would say to me, I knew this was coming. One day I was getting a knock at the door, and I'm glad you're here now, because it was a burden inside them. And most people, they want that tap at the door. They know it's going to come at some point. But very few don't care about that, like the career ones who are extreme examples. Do they learn their craft inside? Look, they've got a lot of time. Some of them better themselves inside, and they learn and they study and they do academic work and learning, which they never had the opportunity to do. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, I think.
So there is not many stories like a Frank Abigail, you know what I mean? Like
Frank Abigail, yes, I did see him once.
Really?
A couple of times. I went to some of his seminars, yes.
For those who don't know, that's from the Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can, yes.
I mean, when I was reading the book first time, I said to myself, I was on English, it took me like 6 months to read the book, but I said to my wife then, I said like, oh my God, this book is so good, Frank Abigail. She says, isn't that the guy, FBI? And I said like, I said, what? And he became work for FBI.
Yes.
Do you agree with me that most of people believe, and I say like the society is actually doing wrong thing? There's several people in Australia who portray themselves as they can heal the cancer, they can do these things and everything else. They took the money from the people, they took the hope and everything else.
Yeah.
And they got the time on a Netflix, they got the time on a Prime.
Yes.
I mean, I was sick, seriously. I said to myself, what society we live in when we are rewarding the criminals? It's not a Frank Abagnale 60s.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
When I first saw Frank Abagnale, I was only a few years in. I was a junior detective at the time, and I was very idealistic. Yeah. And I said to the others, I'm not going, he's a criminal, I don't want to hear or see a criminal.
Okay.
I will not go. So reluctantly I went along, and I thought to myself, wow, this guy is the best. He's the most entertaining person. And he had stories to tell. This is when he was rehabilitated and working for the FBI, unpaid, of course.
Yeah.
And he had lots of experience and knowledge and how to combat what he had done in his younger years. So did he get rehabilitated? Well, maybe. Who truly knows? But that's an interesting example. And then he went to work for the FBI, as you said. I had another case where the offender went to America.
Yeah.
And for 4 years, I felt like Tom Hanks and my team did, because for 4 years we didn't know where he was. But every Christmas he would make one phone call to his mother in Australia to wish her Merry Christmas. And we checked her phone number, her phone records, once a year. Boxing Day, we would check. And sure enough, 3 years running, it was coming from the same continent, America, North America. And we went and got him after 4 to 5 years of confirming that he was there.
4 years.
In conjunction with the US Marshals. Yeah. They were very helpful. They were very, very good, actually. They do a good job because they have a limited portfolio. It's fugitives.
Of course.
And chasing and fugitive down. So
now that's what the people don't understand. Like, like that's extensive work. 4 years, it's a frustration, and then you say like one phone call, one number.
Yes, and we did that, and it came up to Christmas again, and we said, we better check Mrs. So-and-so's records, phone records, to see if he's called her. And sure enough, he'd called her. After the 4th year, we thought, okay, now we can organise something to go and get this person, because they're obviously embedded where they are.
Yeah. Look, I'm really enjoying conversing with you, because for most of the people who are maybe now listening, they cannot see the video because maybe driving or whatever they do. I just want you to know that Roland has a smile, very warm smile on the face. And, you're the man who saw many things, dealt with many things. But let's go talk now about aspect of the discipline and martial arts, right?
Yes.
When I was reading, I said, like, you were inducted into Australasian Martial Arts Sports
Hall of Fame, yes.
Hall of Fame, so not once but twice. Okay. Can you guide me to that process, martial arts? When did you start? And not just why did you start, but what was the major reason that you go in martial arts?
I started when I was 12. And,
oh my God, that's early, eh?
Yeah. Well, there are kids starting now at 4 and 5 years old doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But, I started when I was 12, and at the time there was only Taekwondo, Karate, or Kung Fu around. Judo as well, but that was a little bit hidden. It was harder to find. So I just grew up next door to the head instructor for New South Wales, and I played with his sons who were my age. And that's how I got into doing what they did. And once I start something, Mario, it's very hard for me to let go of.
Okay.
So I kind of stick to things. I don't know. I like the idea of loyalty and sticking to things, if possible. But I've always loved martial arts. I love human movement, the way people can do things. There's very impressive physical attributes. And physical intelligence is something. I mean, people have academic intelligence, they have physical intelligence. Some people are blessed with both in some ways. But just seeing people move and the things that we can do, even though we have 2 hands and 2 feet, we can do a lot with that. And I was mesmerised by obviously Bruce Lee and
oh my God, don't start with that
Norris and all those luminaries and legends, and they are real legends of the martial arts world. Richard Norton, Australia's, he made movies with Chuck Norris in the late 70s and 80s, and then became a huge co-star with Jackie Chan and Cynthia Rothrock and all these other people. So that kind of got me into it, and I just enjoy teaching people and being able to look after themselves. And I'm a big fan of verbal judo, not so much the physical side. It's funny, you have to train physically to have confidence in not to use it. But then you're confident enough to speak your mind if you need to. And I learnt a lot with the police as well, dealing with confrontations and people yelling at you. And it's quite disconcerting getting yelled at, because most people, they shy away from that, which is understandable. Someone's yelling and being aggressive. Nobody wants that. We all want to be peaceful. So you're the one very, very calm person. Like, I must say that one. When you mentioned the Bruce Lee, again, you brought me back into my childhood. I remember on a Sunday morning, we go in the cinema 10 o'clock in the morning. And, on the way from the cinema back home, the group of us, we'll do all this crazy, martial arts, want to be Bruce Lee. But I'm glad that you grew up with Bruce Lee. So for those, so obviously you grew up in an era where there was no muscles, six-pack, the fitness influencers and anything else. How did that help you to stay sane? How the martial arts help the person or yourself to cope with the stress, to cope with the sleepless nights? Obviously, look, what people doesn't know about police is not just solving the crime. You need to deal with interpersonal conflicts in the workplace. Definitely, that's a big thing. Management, they want one outcome, you want another outcome. And sometimes they don't match up. And you have to obviously listen to your superiors and be guided by them, of course. So that was always difficult. But martial arts in that aspect, and just day to day, I always felt a big part of martial arts is meditation concepts in the martial arts. So breathing, we all breathe, we all do it, but controlling that and listening to that, it's very hard to breathe with purpose and then with no purpose. So you breathe, you think about it, and then you don't think about it. And to keep that going at the same level can be quite challenging, which is where yoga and other aspects of training, physical training, comes in. So I often found that I never liked to fight fire with fire. And don't get me wrong, if something was necessary, that's fine. I could manage that because I felt confident and comfortable doing that. But I would rather speak and help people. And I often found in policing that even people who've done bad things, if you treated them well with respect, and respect is a big thing in martial arts, they respected you and they would help you. So you're catching more flies with honey than vinegar. And really, people just want to be treated well. Everyone does, even if they've done a bad thing. Getting emotional about that and getting personally invested in that, that's not going to work, because you're butting heads and people, it's ego then coming into play. And a big thing about martial arts, Mario, is no ego. That's why they bow. That's why there's bowing, because every time you bow, you're suppressing your ego, or supposed to be. So you, in a karate dojo, bowing is a big thing. When you leave and enter the hall, when you leave, go to the bathroom, whatever it is, there's bowing constantly. So that's one reason is suppressing the ego, because we all have it.
Yeah, let's go understand one thing.
And we need it. We need it to survive, but to keep it in check and to understand that you shouldn't.
So what do you think about the people? Like, would you agree with me? Like, I said this from my personal experience. And I said to my son, world, it's a different place than you live at home. You know, he started working in this great new place. But he said that some guys, they just, some doctors are really nasty. And I said to him, Mateo, because it's easy to be the nasty.
Mm-hmm.
But you, Roland, come across as a genuine, kind guy. My question is...
Mario.
My question is, why people are easier to become more nasty and mean and unkind, ungrateful and full of spite and venom, you know what I mean? Rather to be like right now like you, because I feel very comfortable talking to you. Like there's no... Do you understand? Like, there's no competition with you. Like, you can...
Oh, no.
I'll just interview you. You could interrupt me many times. Say, no, Mario, it's not a detective. It's a this or that. You know what I mean? But
no. Yeah,
I'm very grateful. So my question is like, why do people become more nasty than being kind?
Well, extroverts and introverts as well. I mean, the personality types, there's an inherent human... nature is to be put power over people in one way, shape or form.
Yeah.
And it's easier to be nasty, I think, in some ways. And maybe people think they're getting a respect. I found there's a respect by fear when people act that way. So, and it could be a boss who acts that way, and nobody wants to talk to them or touch them because they'll yell at them. So that's a way for people to not be approached if they're doing fraudulent activities. That's another red flag. But to your question, when I started martial arts, people I was training with, they were tough guys. Tough guys, a bit older than me. They're mid-teens, 20 years old, and at that, when you're a 12-year-old, I thought, wow, these are men, and they're very strong. And I always thought I was too nice, and I thought I had to be tough like them. But then I realised that there was nothing wrong with that, because who are we? Karate is after the Japanese, and it's obviously a Japanese art, and they're very polite people, and even the warriors, the samurai, very, very polite people, and it's part of their culture. So then I thought, well, if that's okay, because if a samurai is polite to someone, if he wants to do something to you, he will. But they meet and greet, they have the tea ceremony, they talk, they chat, and they respect people. So I think everyone needs to be respected. I think every breathing organism on the planet needs to be looked after the best they can and have a chance, because we're all on the planet together. We're all here in the one planet together. We have to look after it together, Mario, and help each other the best we can. So you're
one of the most genuine people I met. I mean, somehow in the last couple of years of my life, I become more grateful for the being alive. You know what I mean? And meeting the people like yourself, rather than just being some mean guy, whatever you want to call this. And, when I come in my gym in the morning, I've seen all these young guys, and, it's like I'm running into the chemist shop because everybody's on a gear, you know what I mean? And I say, this is not good, guys. Mario, you don't understand. I say, like, look, it's not that I understand, not understand. It's not good. Everything what you inject in yourself, it's not good, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah. But you know that how to deal with the people. Speaking about samurais, last year I come across this Miyamoto Musashi and the Doko, and I start listening to these things. I think myself, how the guy who killed so many people actually has some most wise things to share with the world to become better person in anything, not just in killing as he was. Now, you are not just saving reputation and money to corporations right now, but you have your own school, right?
Yes.
what is the first thing you're teaching your students? And what's the school about? Sorry, I want guys to roll on. Thank you.
So it's called Zendokai, freestyle martial arts, part of Bob Jones Martial Arts Corporation, and it followed the Bruce Lee model of anything that works, use it, and essentially, if it works, use it. Yeah. So the best of everything in progression is a literal translation. So with new students, I like to have good people training in the dojo, good attitudes, positive, motivated, and people that can listen to instructions as well, who listen very carefully rather than trying to counter everything you say. And you'll get people like that. So that's a bad culture or straight away. And it can happen. I've seen it with children. You can see what they're going to blossom into probably, but the reason their parents send them to class is maybe to get that attitude out of them, or to make them stronger people or better people within themselves, so they can carry on and face the world as it is when they grow up, because it's tough out there, right?
Yes, it is.
So they're the first things I look at: culture, if they're a good fit, if they'll get along with my other students, because we all need each other to train. We can't do it without the other. So that's another important thing people forget. So there's no use sparring or wrestling with someone and trying to destroy them. I mean, that's pointless, a pointless exercise. It's far more difficult and technically excellent to be able to defend yourself properly, rather than just throwing out, I'll say, strikes, because the stand-up, striking, kicking, punching, elbows, knees. I won't say anyone can do that, but anyone can do that, and they're the kind of attacks you would see on the street, the haymakers, the king hits, those kind of things. But it's being able to defend against that and slow it down under pressure. That's what I really am all about. It's not the physical things and self-defence. Yes, that's one part of it, but I think there's a big misconception, Mario, that yes, you're learning a self-defence and how to protect yourself physically, but also you're learning manners, you're learning etiquette, you learn how to treat elders with respect. You're learning how to get a job, how to separate yourself to an employer, a potential employer, by being polite, by looking at them in the eye, by standing there, by standing up when they stand up, shaking hands. All these kinds of things are part of martial arts, and having that discipline. And for me, that's more important in the long run and overall than throwing a punch or a kick, because you get to a certain age and you can't throw those punches and kicks like you used to, although you'd like to, because your joints wear out and other things. So
thank you for reminding me. That's so true. But like I spoke the other day to my coach Rodney. I'm doing the amateur. No, sorry. Yeah, well, professional amateur, corporate, and that's what I am. But I'm try to maintain my physical activity more than anything else. And I said to him, Rodney, this bare knuckle fighting. I said, this is not normal. He says to me, Mario, we spent two centuries to put the gloves on. Now we're going backwards. It's like, he said, these people are insane. And I think myself, like, is this because entertainment, it's more blood? Because nobody thinks about consequences of that fighting, because that's a big hits in the face, a couple hundred hits in the face. And then the people like yourself who, with a smile on the face, you are conscious that you know how to defend yourself, yet you're going to bow and try to diffuse situation.
Always the first.
How would you help everybody to become angry? How would you tell me, okay, Mario, like if you know that I'm becoming angry every so often, with everything, how I can...
Yeah. Look, the first thing I try and do is really connect with someone. And I think a lot of people do that just as a habit, like, how are you? When they don't really care. And I know it's a greeting and it's something we do, part of our culture. But if someone is like that and maybe upset, I actually want to know why. How are you feeling? Why are you upset? Can I help? And all of a sudden, people come down levels. And I found this policing as well. People will come down if they're angry about something or upset. Just ask them, are you okay? What's the matter? Can I help you? Those kind of, just a few words. A very powerful word is feel, the word feeling. How do you feel, rather than how are you? They're very, very different.
Okay.
Asking someone how you are and how you feel, a big difference. So I tend to use, in those situations, how are you feeling? If you can see someone's upset and they're stressed, or they're tired, or they have those signs about them.
So to ask a question now, I'll just bouncing off quickly.
Yes.
If somebody wants to learn those things without, let's just say, if it's my age, 53, and he's not sure that he's into martial arts, everything else, but He wants to learn how to meditate. I tried to learn how to meditate, but it never worked for me because every time I close my eyes, everything's dark.
Yes.
But let's just say they want to learn how to meditate, how to work on themselves, become better mentally and maybe even physically. Do they can come in your school, or it's just reserved for the martial arts?
I know martial arts is exciting to people, but it's probably a time might be a problem with everything else going on in their life. There are meditation courses specifically you can do. It forms part of yoga and other.
Through your school?
At my school, we do that as well, yes. But that's a whole package as well. That's learning physical movements, plus foundational exercises as well.
I want to tell people to go to you because you influencing me now. I'm smiling all the time. I say to myself, I'm sorry interrupting you.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I say, who's this guy? You know what I mean? Like, who's this man? Like, so calm.
Yeah.
So measured. Yeah, sorry.
And I haven't got. I would rather quality and have fewer students than a big number and just count numbers.
Yeah.
That's for me. It's not about a reward, monetary rewards or anything like that. So I like to ask what people want to get out of things. So they first go, what do you want out of this? What's your goal? Where do you want to be? How do you want to feel? And I try and cater for everyone in the class and do things that they want to do. So I'm evenly spread. So Mario wants to do this tonight, so I'll do a portion of the class on that, which is beneficial for everyone, by the way.
Yes.
And then we do it. And I think that kind of works quite well, but it's important to ask what someone wants. What do you want to get out of this? And sometimes it's a very general answer like, I just always wanted to do it. I couldn't do it. I started working late. I couldn't get to class. I had a family. And it was simple as that. So, and I have a lot of people who are in their late 40s, 50s, who start class and start martial arts for the first time. And for them, it's liberating and freedom because it's their 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week they have to themselves. And once you get into the dojo, Mario, you leave everything else outside. And I push that in class as well. When we bow in, we line up, we close our eyes just for a moment, breathe a couple of times, and we put everything outside. We don't worry about what happened today. We just here and now, and we focus on the next hour being together and learning some positive things together and motivate each other. And then people leave, and they love it. Because we talk about it after class. How are you feeling? What did you like? Did you like that? Did you want to do more of that? So I think
would you agree with me or disagree? You feel free. I said to my son, because now he's 23 years old, and he's gone through some ordeals in his life, epilepsy, diabetes, all these things. And some things I learned next to him, but I said to people that my biggest investment, my currency I want to invest most is a health. Would you agree that a health is one of the most valuable currencies in life, which is including as well exercising, some type of form?
Yes. Health is the number one.
Number one.
And you only appreciate that when you get a little bit older and you start seeing your friends and maybe family having health issues who are the same age as you or very similar. So investing in health is the most important thing. And really it doesn't matter what someone does, whatever activity they do, as long as they're moving. Walking. People that walk every day, that's fantastic. Stretching and just trying to be supple and keep the body moving, because when people get older, they would typically then be very stiff and whatnot, or if they do a certain movement, because they are stiff, they might pull something or throw something out of whack. So I think any kind of physical activity is great. Just do something. And it doesn't have to be every day. You don't have to go to the gym if you're uncomfortable around people. Just go and do a walk. It's free. Walk around the block, start slowly. Look, Murray, you can do 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes 3 times a week. It's just something. Just start and have that as a routine. Every day, same time, go and do that. That's your time. Very important for people's minds and body both together.
I think you should have your own show, seriously. The world is full of motivation speakers, public speakers. But in my own words, I said to everybody, it's a lies and just making money. Let's just start from the Deepak Chopra, who is now in Epstein Files.
Yes.
I mean, the guy, he's just a bullshit artist.
Yes.
Then you have the Dwayne Rock Johnson, I'm waking up 3 o'clock in the morning and doing this. The guy's on steroids now. He's like a half of size. He lost his health. Just to name a few. And then there come ordinary person like yourself, which you're going to see every day in calls or Woolworths, who has this wealth, abundant knowledge of life secrets, how to be happier, less stressful and how to manage life better, go unnoticed. So I said to myself, you deserve to be seen and being heard, because after all, 26 years in the force, working in corporate world now. So before we wind up, that's one of my questions. Before we wind up, what do you do in Coda Mecta and how you can help organizations through your expertise?
So Coda Mecta has a range of service lines. I'm in the forensic team, so we have forensic accountants, data analysts, we have digital forensics experts and investigators, and they, my team, we have a large team across Asia Pacific, all across Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Jakarta. We help corporates and the government sector as well within any kind of investigations, fraud, risk management plans, basic investigations. We conduct training and workshops in those areas as well. Also, Coda Mecta do restructuring and liquidations for companies that collapse, unfortunately, and matters then go to court. And obviously, there's valuations which need to be attributed to those businesses. And then sometimes it's nefarious activities which are the reasons for businesses collapsing. So then the forensic team will come in. So we work across together. We have a financial crimes team who do anti-money laundering compliance and training for corporates as well. This year in July there's more legislation coming out which will affect real estate agents, lawyers and accountants. They need to know where their money's coming from. Up till now it's been the financial institutions, but now it'll go across to those other sectors as well. So we like to help people, and we'll only help people if we genuinely can, because usually if people come to us, they've lost money or they've already incurred some kind of financial disadvantage. So if we can do something to help them to make their systems internally more robust, we will do that, and honestly, and help them along the line. And we stay in touch with people as well, see how they're going, check on them to make sure things are going well, and can we help down the future. So I'm enjoying that because it's similar to what I was doing before. Again, I'm helping people, and it's a great firm, and just the leadership there is great, and they're authentic. And that word is a bit overused now, Mario, but they actually are.
No, so it comes from you, because I'm not a character judge, but from the first day I met you, you're just somebody who is easy to talk without putting the emphasis, who I am, what I was doing, and that's what makes me very happy, because that is, as you say, authenticity of the person, individual, who knows the true value of themselves without saying, who I am or what I was doing in the past. Yeah, that's the difference.
That's embarrassing to say that. And actually, just one more quick thing on that point, which is very exciting to me. I love learning, which is why I'm back at university again.
Really? What do you study now?
So I did my science degree when I was younger, and then I had a long break in between uni studies, and I did a Master's of Cybersecurity 3 or 4 years ago, and now I'm doing a Bachelor of Laws. So because I want to understand the law in great depth. But learning never stops. I learn. The other day, no kidding, I learned from a 10-year-old student a movement, because in my mind, my adult mind, it was so, I say childish, this movement, but it made sense to a particular self-defense application. And I hadn't seen that for a long time, or maybe had never seen it. So you can learn from everyone. You can learn from animals. You can learn from a lot of different areas in life, older people, younger people. So I think give everyone an opportunity. Don't assume anything, and just try and absorb things, and then make a judgment yourself. I think that's a good thing to do. But don't dismiss people, because everyone has something to say. And I love that people have a story to say. I love hearing about people's backgrounds, how they got to where they are right now. Everyone's fascinating to me.
I mean, who are you? Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, Roland Winter. I'm going to put in the description section all his contact details. Feel free to contact him. Stay in touch. Like I said, we could talk for next 10 days, and hopefully we're going to have more of my guest today in studio, Roland, so we can talk more. And if you have questions, you are a little bit on the other side of the fraud, you don't know how to deal with the fraud, how to prevent fraud, or maybe cyber crime you want to solve, My guest is here today for you. So thank you, Roland, for being my guest today. Truly appreciate you taking time, to be today with me, because I'm so grateful to have you today here. So and that's the true value of everybody without saying what the value it is. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you very much, Mario. It's a deep honour to be here, and I appreciate your time and your viewers' time as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.